Thank you, Reverend Dan. Wowie zowie. Congrats on 30 years of music for Nimrods. And cool Yule kudos for celebrating Frank Zappa for over a decade with these Zappa Dan extravaganzas. The New York Times did a huge feature article on KXLU on December 4th with a picture of you. Someday the Wall Street Urinal will follow suit. Last week, us Nimrods were treated by you, Dan, you beautiful DJ, to Frank Zappa playing the LP One Ruined Life of a Bronze Tourist by Colonel Bruce Hampton, howling, "There's someone yelling in the roof of my mouth." Well, Colonel Bruce was on Lumpy Gravy, the guys from Atlanta. I interviewed him twice for Flipside. A cosmic time traveler, amazing musician with the hypersensitivity of a black country preacher. He died on stage at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, at his big 70th birthday tribute concert, jam banding with Fish, Warren Hayes, and Denny Wally from the Mothers. I can hear happiness as a love supreme, all during the song Turn On Your Love Light. That air check of Frank in 1979, KPIX, as the low-rent guest DJ was so fun. Dan, songs by Jerry and the Holograms, Suburban Lawns, Flying Lizards. Many supplied to Frank from Bleecker Bob, who once told me, "I'm not an asshole, I'm from New York." Dan, I appreciate you hoiking up the medium of radio by playing these radio shows that Frank did, like the Uncle Frankie Show from Pomona. The radio is not broken. I was a teenage malt shop, and that mind-blowing interview with Frank from my home state of Michigan. You know, someone called me once on the 818 Pumpkin hotline, and I asked them, "What state are you calling from?" And they said, "The state of confusion." Frank Zappa fans are so smart. That was on WCBN 88.3 FM, Ann Arbor, 1967, with two very revealing lines from the Mother Superior. "All my songs are poetry," and "God is alive and the church is dead." So Frank forgot to die, and he is alive and kicking in that classic Toronto Mothers concert you played from 1969. As Frank's hero, Edgar Varese, says, "Dying is the privilege of the weary. The present-day composers refuse to die." That was in 1921. The Mothers were fulfilling their own PR hype. Quote, "Somebody in that audience out there knows what we're doing, and that person is getting off on it beyond his or her wildest comprehensions." Frank was a superior social engineering, writing press kits to Mr. Snazzy record executives, all a part of his big note for the last 85 years, conceptual continuity. Now, this is atomic dog talking. Take Toto, the executive as Dropout. As the Mothers go from traditional El Monte Legion Stadium Mexican polka, the Corrido Rock, into another rockin' teenage number all night long by Joe Houston, with Frank instructing the band. Frank, contact the rhythm section, the Mothers. 100, Frank. Drop the torpedo, flip, the band. Dig that cat, he's normal. Frank concludes. Saxophones, in mouth. Ready? Begin. That routine was borrowed and adapted from Nervous Man Nervous by Big J McNeely. Frank was merging greasy LA R&B with Igor Stravinsky, chaos and control. Perfect blend to expand what music is and can be. Frank Zappa says, "I don't want to get too much in tune because it'll make this piece sound too erudite." Then Frank features Roy Estrada singing "Oh in the Sky." His falsetto voice touches me deeply. Listen to the mothers at Royal Albert Hall. When Ian Underwood on piano and Roy as the rejected Mexican Pope go from elegant operatics to greasy pachuco rawness. Better than the Beatles, even today. So let us salute and give tributes to Frank Zappa people who have passed away recently and are jamming in heaven's Joe's Garage. We gotta keep running errands for our ancestors. I met Roy Estrada twice and thanked him for his bass playing with the Mothers, Captain Beefheart, in the original Little Feat lineup. His vocals on Frank Zappa's I Come From Nowhere scream humanity. R.I.P. Roy. Another bass player who passed is Erroneous, also known as Alex Domjowski. He played on Waka Jawaka and Grand Wazoo and more. This Polish talent, who was immersed in a British culture, came to Frank Zappa via Ainsley Dunbar and the outstanding LP by Peter Green, The End of the Game. We remember more associates who passed on, like Mark Volman. Where can I get my Flo Eddie? Ed Mann. Tom Fowler. Check him out on Cheaper Than Cheap. Art Fine. And the greatest Jewish blues guitarist since Mike Bloomfield, Mr. Elliot Ingberg, Wing L. Fingerly, who was once jamming at a party at the Monkey's house in Laurel Canyon, and Jimi Hendrix was literally blown away by Elliot's guitar wailing. So all tune in and beam in on me, baby, to Elliot's solo on Alice in Blunderland by Captain Beefheart. Elliot is on the cover of Freak Out, and he co-wrote the song. Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me. Another was sound mixer and all-around good guy Mark Hoy. He died. Frank wrote the song Markson's Chicken about a rubber chicken in honor of Mark. Go to Gerry Fialka Archives channel on YouTube and see Kahlil Sabbagh play this fine, super fine instrumental by Frank on my Frank Zappa Rant from August before the Stinkfoot Orchestra concert at Venice West. Shout outs to Nick Shargan and his Stinkfoot crew, especially Joey Fabian, the bass player, who's been on my podcast twice. It's called I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also, Conrad St. Clair, leader and bassist for Furious Bongos, was another interview on my podcast, and his amazing Frank Zappa tribute band, Furious Bongos. Due on my podcast soon is the incredible Venice resident Greg Cohen, who played bass with Tom Waits for 20 years. He's on 33 John Zorn albums. He played with Alan Watts, Ornette Coleman, Randy Newman, and many more, including Don Preston. Greg, as a teenager, got to hang out with Beefheart in Woodland Hills and listen to Coltrane together. I got to talk with another Zappa bass player extraordinaire, Scott Tunis, recently. Way back in the mid-'80s, I was fortunate enough to go to 12 Frank Zappa band rehearsals in a row. Every time I saw Scott there, he'd come up to me and say, "Fuck off." Then he missed saying that once, and I said to him, "Aren't you going to tell me to fuck off, Scott?" And he immediately yelled, "Fuck off." He's spawning the puppies in the Frank Zappa tradition and teaching them Zappa compositions up there in Northern California. Since I've been researching my theory about Richard Rodgers' influence on Frank Zappa, I asked Scott about it. He revealed to me an alluring Frank Zappa quote at the Baked Potato Band from Utopia show in November. Scott said, Frank told him, Broadway music is scientifically designed to elicit tears. Well, we know Jean Cocteau said art is science made clear. So I was driving Frank Zappa to the dentist one day years ago, a real dental hygiene dilemma, and I specifically asked Frank about quoting a Richard Rodgers song, Surrey with the Fringe on Top, during the middle of a guitar solo in Australia in '73. Frank quipped back, I heard all that shitty music. Well, I know how important the Great American Songbook is to me and my upbringing. I think Frank was being satirical about something he actually loved. When you hear the pomposity of the Richard Rodgers song, Isn't It Romantic, in the middle of Punky's Whips, it's earth-shattering. In fact, Richard Linklater's new film, Blue Moon, evokes this very incident. Ethan Hawke plays Lorenz Hart, the Richard Rodgers lyricist, for years, and he is miffed because Oscar Hammerstein has replaced him. So Ethan is complaining, and he says, Surrey with the fucking fringe on top? How appropriate, because Linklater is a Frank Zappa fan and especially loves Waka Jawaka. Now, please contact me if you have any insights to the Richard Rodgers and Frank Zappa connections. Pattern recognition leads to comprehensive awareness, the big picture, the big note. Even Tommy Mars has stressed to me Frank's love of Valley High. Another bass player who died recently is Anthony Jackson, whose monster bass starts the OJ's 1973 hit, For the Love of Money. Anthony said his life was changed irrevocably and forever by Olivier Messiaen, the French composer whose harmonic and melodic approach centered on the tritone interval. Frank was baffled by Messiaen, but eventually learned from him the theory behind his use of scales and harmony, that dividing them could generate new types of harmony. Pretty good for a composer who was influenced by birds. Messiaen thought the planet's greatest musicians were birds. And Jimmy Sherwood says in 200 Motels, I hear birds, which caused Frank to tweet, everything is happening all the time. All times are happening now. That's James Joyce, all at onceness. That's why Frank listed him in Freak Out as an influence. Have I gone on beyond the fringe of audience comprehension, Dan? Help me. The time-space continuum has done a tetradic flip. As Nimrods know, the universe was created with one initial note. Well, I'm a failure, but I'm not a miserable failure, so thanks, Reverend Dan, my buddy. The present-day DJ refuses to die. Oh, let me rebuild. No, that's wrong. The present-day Nimrod refuses to die. No, that's wrong. The present-day Zappatista refuses to die. May the Lord have mercy on the fate of this rant. What will you do if Reverend Dan lets you go home? Run home slow. So I'll close out with the Frank Zappa question, what is beyond love? Thank you, Dan.
Gerry, once again, you have done an outstanding Zappa Day rant for us. Thank you so much. Anything we need to promote while we have you on the phone?
Just listen to Reverend Dan on Music for Nimrods. That's all I need to promote. That's my lifeblood, man. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful morning, and thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerry Fialka on the phone with his Zappa Dan rant for 2025. All right, let me bring some record scratches up. I'm going to enter these record scratches as record scratches on the Spinatron. Hold on a second. Let's see, black vinyl record.